There's a special kind of silence that comes right before acceleration, a heartbeat of calm before everything blurs into motion. It's not about loud exhausts or screaming turbos. It's about precision, balance, and the kind of confidence that hides behind understatement. Picture an electric hum building beneath your feet, a seamless rush that feels both effortless and relentless. This is where technology meets instinct, where design stops being decoration and becomes a declaration of intent. You don't need to shout when you're this quick. The road already knows what's coming, and somewhere between stealth and spectacle lies a machine that rewrote what performance could sound like, or not sound like at all. It's proof that speed doesn't have to announce itself, it can whisper and still be heard everywhere. If that kind of quiet power intrigues you, stick around. This story dives deep into how an unassuming electric sedan became a stealth legend. Subscribe, and tell us in the comments which machine you want to uncover next. The Tesla Model S Plaid is where the conversation about modern performance takes a sharp and unmistakable turn. In an era when supercars rely on roaring engines and handcrafted exclusivity, this electric sedan arrives without fanfare, then obliterates everything around it with numbers that sound fictional. To understand how we got here, we have to rewind to the original Model S, the car that redefined what a luxury EV could be back in 2012. Tesla built it not as an eco-conscious commuter, but as a statement that electricity could deliver range, comfort, and prestige without compromise. Yet, even then, hidden in the company's DNA was the obsession with acceleration, the desire to prove that silence could outrun sound. When the Plaid arrived in 2021, it wasn't just an upgrade. It was the culmination of nearly a decade of relentless iteration, software refinement, and battery innovation. The Plaid's very name, borrowed from a comedic reference to hyperspeed, signaled that Tesla was ready to go beyond the limits of physics, or at least the limits of public perception. The engineering that made the Model S Plaid possible didn't happen overnight. Tesla's vertical integration, designing everything from battery modules to control software, gave it the ability to push performance boundaries faster than traditional automakers. The tri-motor setup became the centerpiece, one motor up front and two at the rear, each with carbon-sleeved rotors that could spin at over 20,000 revolutions per minute. Those sleeves weren't just for show. They allowed the motors to handle the immense forces of electric torque without shredding themselves apart. The result was instant, repeatable acceleration that didn't fade with heat soak or shifting delays. Unlike a combustion engine that builds power over a range of RPMs, the Plaid delivered it all at once, 120 horsepower ready the moment your right foot twitched. But the brilliance of the Model S Plaid wasn't only in raw numbers. It was in how usable that power became. Tesla engineers obsessed over traction management, cooling, and thermal limits, ensuring that each run felt identical to the last. The battery pack, still based on the familiar 18650 cells from earlier Teslas, was heavily reworked, with improved heat rejection and a new architecture that balanced energy density with power output. It was a masterclass in software-defined hardware, where digital calibration made more difference than mechanical complexity. Inside, the Plaid felt like a spaceship. The yoke steering wheel, minimalist dashboard, and massive infotainment screen weren't gimmicks, but a reflection of Tesla's mission to erase tradition wherever it slowed progress. And yet, for all its futuristic flair, the Model S Plaid had to face a more human question. Who was it really for? The average driver would never need to hit 200 mph or sprint from 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds. But that wasn't the point. The Plaid represented a cultural milestone, proof that an American-built electric car could stand shoulder to shoulder with, and often ahead of, the world's most revered performance machines. It blurred the lines between luxury and lunacy, between daily commuter and drag strip menace. For owners, it meant living with a paradox. A car that could silently destroy a hypercar yet blend into traffic. Like any other upscale sedan, ownership of the Model S Plaid revealed another truth about Tesla's ecosystem. It wasn't just selling cars, but experiences bound by software. Updates arrived over the air, constantly refining everything from acceleration maps to energy management. Drivers woke up to new features, sometimes even more power, without visiting a service center. That direct-to-consumer pipeline became part of the car's allure. It felt alive, evolving, and never truly finished. Tesla also used the Plaid to push its interface philosophy to extremes. The absence of traditional stalks or buttons, the insistence on touchscreen control, the polarizing yoke, all challenged how people interacted with vehicles. Some called it visionary, others maddening, but nobody could accuse it of being boring. Then came the debates. Could the Model S Plaid truly sustain its performance in real-world conditions? Reviewers tested it, some discovering that under continuous high-speed driving, heat buildup could still dial back power. Tesla responded with firmware tweaks, improved cooling cycles, and even optional carbon ceramic brakes for sustained track use. The dance between physics and software never stopped. And while rivals from Germany and Italy chased perfection through craftsmanship, Tesla pursued it through iteration, releasing, updating, correcting, and improving in public view. By the time early adopters began clocking serious miles, the Plaid had already etched its reputation. It wasn't just a car. It was a living experiment in how far electrification could go when unburdened by legacy thinking. Tesla's decision to keep the Model S alive instead of replacing it outright showed confidence in its platform and defiance against the automotive industry's tendency to reset every few years. The Plaid's mission wasn't to fit into the performance hierarchy. It was to redraw it entirely. Culturally, that mattered. The Model S Plaid became a symbol of quiet dominance in a market obsessed with noise. Tech enthusiasts, not just car fans, saw it as the embodiment of disruption. Its design language, unchanged for nearly a decade, began to feel intentional, a kind of timeless minimalism that let the technology speak louder than any aesthetic refresh. For longtime Tesla owners, upgrading to the Plaid wasn't just about speed. It was a declaration of belonging to the next chapter of mobility. For skeptics, it was proof that Tesla still knew how to capture attention without reinventing the silhouette. What makes the Plaid so fascinating isn't just what it achieves, but how it frames the conversation about the future of cars. Performance no longer has to smell like gasoline or sound like thunder. It can be instant, invisible, and yet emotionally devastating. This realization didn't just change Tesla's trajectory, it changed the industry's. Every manufacturer now benchmarks against electric acceleration and software-driven refinement. The ripple effects are visible everywhere, from startups to century-old marques scrambling to catch up. Still, there's a duality to the Model S Plaid that invites reflection. It's both an apex and an enigma, an engineering masterpiece that many will never fully exploit. The very qualities that make it groundbreaking also make it polarizing. For some, it's the future distilled. For others, it's the loss of mechanical soul. And that tension is precisely why it matters. The Plaid forces everyone to confront what performance means in the electric age. Is it about noise and drama, or about efficiency and inevitability? In that question lies the core of Tesla's vision, and the reason this car exists at all. As we move forward, the story of the Tesla Model S Plaid will only grow more relevant. The competition is rising, the technology is advancing, but this car's significance is already secured. It proved that an electric sedan could not only compete with, but surpass the best combustion vehicles ever built, without changing its exterior identity. It's the ultimate sleeper in plain sight. And as its legend builds, the real challenge becomes clear. What happens when the future you imagined arrives and it's faster than you expected? That's where our story heads next. The Tesla Model S Plaid entered the performance arena with the force of a paradigm shift, and by its second year on the road, the shockwaves were undeniable. While early adopters reveled in quarter-mile bragging rights, the rest of the world tried to understand how a four-door family car was embarrassing million-dollar exotics. Reviewers measured it, racers tested it, and skeptics scrutinized it, yet the numbers never lied. The Model S Plaid wasn't just redefining speed, it was redefining credibility. From the moment Tesla delivered the first Plaids, track footage started circulating online, bone-stock sedans storming drag strips, setting times that used to belong to stripped-down race cars. And it wasn't just the straight-line figures, it was how accessible that performance became. The Plaid didn't need a pit crew, race fuel, or weather-dependent turbo tuning. You simply charged it overnight, climbed in, and unleashed sub-2-second launches with one pedal. In the tuning world, that simplicity was heresy. But to Tesla owners, it was liberation. The Plaid erased the traditional barriers of performance. No clutches to fry, no boost to build, no gears to chase. Just torque, instant, unrelenting, and shockingly consistent. Still, there was resistance. Purists argued that such digital dominance came at the cost of soul, that perfection in acceleration dulls the visceral bond between driver and machine. Yet Tesla's answer wasn't to argue, it was to improve. Through software updates, the company introduced track mode, thermal management revisions, and power delivery tweaks that sharpened the driving experience. Owners discovered they could fine-tune cooling, torque bias, and regenerative braking with a touchscreen, an interface that turned engineering control into user choice. The very notion of tuning had evolved. It was no longer about wrenches and fuel maps. It was about sliders and firmware. The Plaid became the car that could reinvent itself without lifting a hood. In the aftermarket, that shift created a strange new ecosystem. Traditional performance shops had to adapt, offering carbon fiber aero kits and upgraded brake packages instead of ECU flashes or exhaust systems. Customizers leaned into stealth builds, matte wraps, lightweight wheels, subtle spoilers, because the Model S Plaid didn't need cosmetic aggression to assert dominance. Its menace was psychological, a near-silent machine capable of annihilating anything beside it. The phrase "sleeper Tesla" stopped being an oxymoron and became a statement of intent. Owners relished the irony that their quiet sedan could humble every roaring rival within a city block. Motorsport took notice, too. The Plaid's all-wheel drive system and instant torque proved lethal in short sprints, but its weight, over 4,700 pounds, posed a challenge in extended racing. Tesla addressed that through the track package, adding lighter wheels, better tires, and optional carbon ceramic brakes. That package, while not transforming the Plaid into a track car, signaled Tesla's intent. Performance wasn't a gimmick. It was a platform. Behind the scenes, data collected from these high-performance sessions fed back into Tesla's software development, improving thermal logic and traction algorithms across the fleet. The Plaid wasn't just a product. It was a rolling laboratory. The US market responded with fascination. Sales of the Model S had plateaued before the Plaid's debut, but the halo effect was immediate. Tesla didn't advertise, yet headlines did the work for them. Every viral drag race video became free marketing. Every YouTube quarter-mile test a showcase of electric inevitability. Dealership-free sales meant customers interacted directly with Tesla, bypassing the traditional haggling ritual. And while some missed the negotiation, others celebrated the simplicity. The Plaid buyer profile evolved, tech-savvy, affluent, and driven by curiosity as much as status. Owning one wasn't just about speed, it was about participating in a cultural moment, one where Silicon Valley overtook Stuttgart and Maranello in the performance conversation. Yet, for all its triumphs, the Plaid also revealed the vulnerabilities of Tesla's strategy. The minimalist interior polarized opinions. Some found it futuristic, others sterile. The yoke steering wheel, intended to emphasize the car's high-tech identity, became a lightning rod for criticism. Tesla eventually began offering a round wheel option, tacitly acknowledging that innovation doesn't always trump ergonomics. Range anxiety remained a discussion point, though with over 390 miles per charge, the Plaid largely silenced that concern. Build quality, another Tesla talking point, continued to vary, an uncomfortable truth for a car that cost more than most houses in America's Midwest. But even with imperfections, the Plaid's gravitational pull remained strong. It was fast enough, advanced enough, and bold enough to make those flaws feel secondary. Globally, the Model S Plaid reshaped expectations of what an EV could be. European automakers scrambled to respond, accelerating their own high-performance electric projects. The benchmark had moved from "can it compete with a Tesla?" to "can it beat the Plaid?" In Asia, rival brands studied its battery architecture and software-driven ecosystem, trying to decode how Tesla achieved such sustained power delivery without sacrificing reliability. Governments, meanwhile, saw the Plaid as both an engineering marvel and a policy headache, proof that EVs could thrill consumers. But also a reminder that infrastructure and safety standards would have to evolve quickly. The American car landscape, always defined by horsepower wars, was entering a new phase. Instead of cubic inches and turbo boost, the arms race now revolved around kilowatts, charging speeds, and thermal efficiency. The Model S Plaid stood at the center of that transformation, not just as a participant, but as the benchmark. Its acceleration numbers, once considered absurd, became the new normal for electric flagships. But beneath the spectacle, there was a subtler achievement. Tesla had made performance feel inevitable. The Plaid wasn't about proving that electric cars could be fast. It was about proving that they already were, and everyone else was late to the realization. Inside Tesla's culture, the Plaid project reinforced the company's philosophy of speed, not just literal, but organizational. Updates rolled out rapidly, sometimes weekly. Engineers weren't waiting for model year changes. They pushed improvements live across the fleet. This approach unsettled traditional automakers bound by production cycles and dealership logistics. Tesla's agility became its greatest weapon, and the Plaid became the physical proof of that mindset. The car wasn't frozen in time. It was a living platform. Enthusiasts began to form a new kind of community around the Plaid, one defined not by exhaust notes or tuning meets, but by shared data, OTA updates, and digital bragging rights. Forums filled with performance logs and software version comparisons. Owners dissected their firmware numbers the way old-school tuners once discussed cam profiles. It was a new language of performance, one that spoke in milliseconds and voltage curves. For some, it felt clinical. For others, intoxicating. The common ground was respect for what the machine represented and for how completely it redefined expectation. As time went on, competitors entered the field. Rivals launched their own tri-motor systems, claiming even quicker acceleration or higher top speeds. But the Model S Plaid retained a unique kind of mystique. It wasn't built to impress investors or win a niche market. It was built to show what electric propulsion could do when nothing held it back. That intent gave it authenticity. While others treated EV performance as a novelty, Tesla treated it as destiny. By 2024, the Plaid had matured. Software updates smoothed its behavior, optional equipment refined its handling, and public perception had settled from shock to admiration. It no longer needed to prove itself. It had already altered the definition of performance luxury. Its influence extended far beyond drag strips and track times. It had reshaped boardroom strategies, accelerated electric adoption, and changed what buyers expected from a car at any price. And yet, even after years of production, it still felt futuristic, still slightly ahead of its time. That's the mark of true innovation, when the present still feels like a glimpse of what's next. The story of the Tesla Model S Plaid isn't just about speed, it's about the democratization of performance. It took what was once the domain of millionaires and made it accessible, repeatable, and eerily calm. The thrill didn't come from drama, it came from precision. And as we head toward the next phase of electrification, that's the challenge Tesla set for everyone else. The Plaid proved that the quietest car on the road could also be the loudest message in the industry. The next chapter asks, how do you top the car that already broke the sound barrier without making a sound? That's where we go in segment 3. The Tesla Model S Plaid stands today as the apex of a vision that began more than a decade earlier. And in segment 3, we finally see what its legacy really means. When Tesla released the Model S Plaid, it wasn't just chasing speed records. It was testing the limits of belief. The idea that a full-size electric sedan could outpace hypercars and still carry groceries sounded absurd, until it wasn't. And now, with a few years behind it, the Plaid's true achievement has shifted from performance to permanence. It proved that the future of driving would be defined by software, not spark plugs. In the years since launch, the Plaid has evolved quietly but constantly through over-the-air updates, refining its behavior and adapting to new expectations. While most cars freeze in time the moment they leave the factory, the Plaid keeps rewriting itself. Owners have seen acceleration modes adjusted, user interfaces redesigned, even braking logic recalibrated, all without a single trip to a dealership. That constant evolution has become its signature trait. It's not just a product of its era, it's a participant in its own timeline. Tesla turned the car into a subscription to innovation, a concept that no traditional automaker had truly mastered. But legacy isn't just about technology, it's about influence. Every rival that followed adopted some piece of the Plaid's formula. The tri-motor layout, the obsession with software control, the belief that numbers once reserved for supercars could live in everyday vehicles. The Model S Plaid forced an industry reset. For the first time, the performance hierarchy wasn't measured in displacement or cylinders, it was measured in code. Automakers scrambled to hire software engineers to rethink their drivetrains as digital ecosystems rather than mechanical puzzles. In a strange twist, Tesla's minimalist interior became prophetic. While critics mocked its simplicity, competitors began imitating it. Buttons disappeared, screens grew, and interfaces migrated online. The entire industry started chasing a standard that Tesla had already normalized. For enthusiasts, the Plaid introduced a new kind of relationship with performance. Instead of oil changes and exhaust swaps, the rituals became firmware updates and range optimizations. Tuning moved from the garage to the cloud. That shift unsettled some purists, but captivated a generation raised on smartphones and instant gratification. To them, the Plaid wasn't sterile. It was alive, reactive, connected. It wasn't just fast. It was smart. And that intelligence changed what it meant to be a driver. Skill was still valued, but mastery now included understanding how to manipulate algorithms, not just throttle response. Tesla had merged driving with data, and in doing so, built a bridge to the autonomous future it had always promised. The cultural impact of the Model S Plaid extended beyond automotive circles. It became a shorthand for technological supremacy, a status symbol not of wealth alone but of futurism. When tech CEOs and celebrities began replacing their supercars with Plaids, it wasn't just convenience, it was symbolism. Owning one said, "I'm part of what's next." And because of that, the Plaid transcended its own specifications. It wasn't merely fast. It was a social signal wrapped in brushed aluminum and battery cells. It reshaped the conversation about sustainability, too. Suddenly, green no longer meant slow or compromised. It meant cutting-edge, powerful, and desirable. The electric car was no longer a moral choice. It was a competitive one. Still, time tests every revolution. As newer EVs arrived promising equal or greater numbers, the Model S Plaid faced its greatest challenge, staying relevant without fundamentally changing. Tesla's solution was subtle, iteration over reinvention. Rather than release a successor, it refined the Plaid's platform, improving efficiency, comfort, and software while keeping its silhouette unchanged. That decision sparked debate, but also underscored Tesla's philosophy. True innovation isn't about redesigning everything. It's about perfecting what works. In that way, the Plaid aged gracefully, its once radical profile becoming an icon of restrained power. Today, the Model S Plaid occupies a strange and powerful position in the car world. It's both attainable and legendary, both familiar and futuristic. Used examples hold value not just for their speed, but for their significance. They mark the moment when electric performance stopped being a novelty and became the norm. For collectors, the first-generation Plaid may one day stand alongside classics that once defined their own eras of disruption. The muscle cars of the 60s, the turbos of the 80s, the hybrids of the 2000s. But where those relied on combustion, the Plaid's legacy will be coded in electrons and algorithms. More importantly, it redefined how we measure emotion behind the wheel. The absence of sound didn't erase excitement, it redefined it. The rush came not from noise, but from the shock of impossible acceleration, from the eerie calm as the world bent around you. That contradiction, quiet violence, is the essence of the Plaid's identity. It taught us that performance could be serene, that dominance didn't have to roar, and in that silence, the future found its voice. As automakers push toward even greater extremes, quad motors, sub-2-second claims, AI driving assistance, the shadow of the Model S Plaid lingers. It remains the proof of concept, the benchmark, the ghost they're all chasing. Tesla built a car that didn't just move fast. It moved the goalposts for an entire industry. And while its successors will surely surpass it in specs, few will ever match the cultural gravity of that first moment when an electric sedan shattered the world's understanding of speed. So when we look back on the Model S Plaid years from now, we won't just remember its numbers, we'll remember what it represented. The moment the electric age stopped apologizing for itself and started outperforming everything else. The legacy of the Plaid isn't measured in horsepower or seconds, it's measured in disbelief turned to faith. And for Tesla, that's the quiet victory that still echoes louder than any engine ever could. The Tesla Model S Plaid carved its name into automotive history not through noise but through shock. It arrived, disrupted everything, and left even skeptics scrambling to redefine what power, luxury, and speed meant in the electric age. For you, S buyers, its story is still unfolding, and whether you see it as a technological marvel or a philosophical shift, its presence on American roads is impossible to ignore. The Model S Plaid remains Tesla's halo product, and while it sits well, above the average car budget, its long-term influence has trickled down across the lineup and even beyond the brand itself. From an ownership perspective, the Model S Plaid continues to surprise. Despite its staggering output, it can function as a daily driver with near-silent ease, room for 5 adults, and a usable trunk. Real-world range averages around 350 or 370, Miles, depending on driving style and conditions, impressive for a vehicle delivering over 1,000 horsepower. Maintenance, as with most Teslas, leans more towards software than mechanics. Fewer moving parts, no oil changes, and updates that arrive overnight. But owning one still requires commitment. Charging infrastructure is strong across the US. Yet rapid performance driving drains the battery faster than advertised. Insurance costs reflect its category, and replacement parts, especially for those unique carbon-sleeved motors or optional ceramic brakes, can be steep. Still, compared to the running costs of traditional supercars, the Plaid's efficiency feels almost practical. On the used market, pricing for the Tesla Model S Plaid has begun to stabilize, with depreciation rates leveling as supply tightens and demand remains high among enthusiasts and collectors. The earliest builds, especially low-mileage examples, in distinctive colors, have started to develop their own following, viewed not just as luxury sedans, but as the first generation of hyper-EVs. For buyers considering one today, due diligence is key. Check software history, warranty status, and battery health data before purchase. Because Tesla's updates can subtly alter performance or features over time, it's worth confirming what version of the software and hardware you're actually getting. Reliability, while improved, still follows Tesla's pattern of highs and lows. The drivetrain and battery system have proven robust, with very few large-scale failures reported, but fit and finish issues can vary between model years. Fortunately, Tesla's direct service approach and growing network of centers in the U.S. have reduced wait times and parts delays. Owners who maintain realistic expectations, understanding that the Plaid is both a tech product and a car, tend to report the highest satisfaction. The payoff is enormous: unmatched acceleration, cutting-edge interface design, and the constant novelty of living with something that evolves in real time. For anyone watching from the sidelines, the Model S Plaid stands as a symbol of how quickly the automotive world has changed. It demonstrated that electric vehicles could dominate the performance conversation without sacrificing comfort or practicality. It also raised the bar for every other automaker now chasing its benchmarks. Whether you're an enthusiast tracking its lap times or a commuter passing one in silence, the influence of the Plaid touches nearly every EV sold in America today. So what should buyers and fans take away? That the Tesla Model S Plaid isn't just about being the fastest, it's about redefining what progress feels like. It's the first mass-produced car to make 1,000-horsepower acceleration as accessible as a phone update, the bridge between combustion passion and digital precision. And even years after launch, its quiet authority still challenges the industry to move faster, think bolder, and make silence the new sound of power. The world of performance has changed forever, and in the background hum of the Model S Plaid, the future isn't coming. It's already here.